Here's my makeshift viewer for the Eclipse. It's made out of an old box for a weed whacker, and what I've done was I placed a piece of aluminum foil over the top, and in the middle of the aluminum foil, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a small, it just went out of focus, there's a small pinhole in the top that's going to let the light in from the sun and basically make a pinhole, essentially a pinhole camera, but we're not going to put any film into it. Rather, we're just going to let the light enter the top here, go down the box, and this box is only maybe 3 or 4 feet tall, so it could maybe be a little bit taller, but it will do the job. And down here in the bottom, I've cut a small flap to make a viewport, and then inside the viewport is a piece of paper to give us as much reflection as possible. And what will happen is the sunlight will go through the pinhole, project an image of the sun onto the paper down below. By looking in the hole there and keeping it as shaded as possible, we should see a nice image of the sun and the progression of the eclipse. So we're going to try that out in just a few minutes. The eclipse has already begun. It is almost 6 o'clock Pacific time, and we're in California. So somewhere around 6:30, 6:37, something like that, will be the maximum of the eclipse where we are. We are slightly west of the ideal position to see the annular eclipse, but we're going to be pretty close. So in just a few minutes I'm going to take this outside and we'll see what we see during the annular eclipse. Alright, here we are at the peak, and there's just a tiny sliver left. Again, our location isn't perfectly aligned with the central part of the eclipse. If we were, we would see a nice bright ring all the way around the moon, but instead we only see it a little bit off to the left there. But we're at about the peak now, and that's about as good as it's going to get. And in a minute I'm going to take the camera and do a little tour to see what it looks like given the current lighting situation. So we can see, if we look at, for example, the shadows on the wall there being cast by the trees, produces these strange ring-like structures, and this is similar to the pinhole effect that we're seeing in the viewer. The light going between the leaves sort of produces the same kind of rings that we would see just if we had a single pinhole looking through the eclipse viewer. And if we just pan around the neighborhood here, might be a little hard to tell because the camera is adjusting its exposure automatically, but it does look a good deal darker than it normally would at about this time of day. I don't want to mess up my camera sensor, so I'm not going to point it at the sun for any length of time, but I'll just pan across here and we'll see what happens.